Hello everyone, welcome to the first section of the course Introduction to Phonetics. Here we will discuss a number of very important and clarifying definitions that should help you better understand the field of phonetics in terms of its relation to other domains. So, let's get started. Well, first of all, let's see the definition of language because that's what we are studying, shall we? According to the Oxford Language Dictionary, language is defined as a system of communication in speech and writing used by people of a particular region. This definition means that we can call a language any system in the form of writing, speech, or even sign, I believe, that is used by a group of people to communicate with one another. Examples of live languages in the world, we have English, of course, Arabic, Chinese, Hindi, Spanish, Russian, etc. Some ancient languages are Latin, Sumerian, Sanskrit, and few others too. All these languages are or were spoken somewhere in the world by groups of people. Since we spoke about language, it is very logical to speak about linguistics too. Why? Simply because linguistics is the scientific study of language. It covers all aspects of human communication, starting with the smallest things, which are sounds, and reaching the analysis of the way thoughts are expressed by people. Linguistics is so large that it covers everything related to language. Here we find phonetics, phonology, syntax, sociolinguistics, neurolinguistics, psycholinguistics, discourse analysis, pragmatics, and so many other fields. In this video, we are not going to talk about all these fields because we cannot, simply we can't. We will focus only on few ones that constitute the ladder or the scale of language analysis. So, we will start from the bottom of this ladder, which is phonetics, and then we go up to the other level. So, what is phonetics? Phonetics is a branch of linguistics which is concerned with how sounds, i.e. phonemes. Phonemes is a technical term we use to describe or to talk about sounds in the field of phonetics. How these sounds are produced, what organs of speech are involved in their production, their transmission through air, and their perception. In simpler words, phonetics investigates the way human sounds are articulated, the organs of speech responsible for their production, the manner those sounds travel from the mouth of the speaker to the ears of the listener, and the way this latter perceives them. Phonology, on the other hand, is the study of the speech sounds of a given language and the function within the system of that language. In simpler words, it studies how language organizes a small number of units, which are sounds, into a system which allows us to conduct an infinite number of sentences. Oh no, you must be confused right now because phonetics and phonology seem to study the same thing, which is phonemes, right? So, what's the difference between the two? Well, the first difference is that phonetics studies the production, transmission, and reception of all sounds, but phonology studies different patterns of sounds in different languages. Second, phonetics does not study a particular language, but phonology does indeed focus on one language in particular. So here we can say that phonetics is narrower than phonology, whereas phonology is more general and studies all languages at the same time. Now let's move to morphology, which is defined as the study of the smallest meaningful chunks of language, morphemes, morphology, morphemes, phonetics and phonology, phonemes, remember? And how these chunks are combined together to create words. As an example, we have the word unhappiness here, which is combined of the three morphemes, un, happy, and ness. When we take the meaning of each of these morphemes, we find that n means not, happy means pleased, and ness means the state of. So the overall meaning of this three morpheme word means the state of being not happy or the state of being not pleased. Do you know any other words like this? Please write them in the comments below. The next level of language analysis is syntax. So, what is syntax? Syntax studies a number of rules that help us combine individual words into grammatical phrases, clauses, and sentences. This refers to the syntactic rules that can specify the grammaticality or ungrammaticality of sentences and utterances. In simpler words, syntax is the set of rules we use to decide whether an utterance or sentence is grammatical or not. Here we have two examples that contain the grammatical mistake concerning the use of the negative form of the simple present tense. In the first sentence, the speaker said, "My sister don't go swimming," whereas the correct form is doesn't. My sister doesn't go swimming. In the second sentence too, the speaker said, "I doesn't take tennis lesson." But when we refer to the grammatical rule, we find that I takes don't. I don't take tennis lesson. Moving on to semantics now, which is defined as the study of all aspects concerning meaning in a given language. It examines the relationship between the words and the concepts to which they refer. Here we have two key words, denotation and connotation. Denotation is the real definition of things, the one we find in dictionaries. But connotation is the deep meaning associated to words. For instance, the word dove is often associated with peace and love. Also, the three colors on the traffic light connote universal meaning, that is, stop for red, wait for yellow, and go for green. A university teacher denotes a person who works and teaches at university, but it may convey adjectives like smart, knowledgeable, or rich, which is not true all the time. The word groom, like this one we've got here, may imply handsome, well-dressed, or happy. The last level of language analysis is pragmatics. Pragmatics is the study of the relationship between linguistic forms and the users of those forms. A great way to learn this is to remember that pragmatics studies who said what, where and when, to whom and why. I repeat, pragmatics analyzes who said what, where and when, to whom and why. I believe few examples can better clarify this, right? So, in the first example here we have a discussion between speaker A and speaker B. Speaker A says, "I have a 14-year-old son." Then speaker B says, "Well, that's right." Then speaker A says again, "I also have a dog." Speaker B says, "Oh, I'm sorry." This dialogue is very hard, almost impossible to understand, unless we are told that speaker A is trying to rent an apartment from speaker B, who doesn't accept pets in the house. In the second dialogue also, the second situation, speaker A says, "Have you seen Sam?" Then speaker B says, "The black car is over there." This seems very incoherent and ambiguous text, but once we know that Sam owns black car, everything becomes clear. Long story short, in the field of pragmatics, context matters. As a summary of this section of the course, we present this first diagram, which visually clarifies the levels of language analysis. First, we have phonetics and phonology, which deal with the phonemes or the sound system of the language. Then we have morphology, which studies the smallest meaningful chunks of language. Then we have syntax, which is related to the rules of language, grammaticality or ungrammaticality of sentences and utterances. After that, we have semantics, which is concerned with meaning, denotation and connotation, if you remember that. Finally, we have pragmatics, which is related to or which studies language in use or language in context. This second diagram is equally helpful and beneficial to remember this section, as it groups these fields according to which point they analyze. Phonetics and phonology are concerned with the sound system of the language. For the form of the language, we have morphology and syntax, and for studying the meaning, we've got semantics and pragmatics. This is all concerning the content of this section of the course. Thank you very much for watching. By the way, this video's motivational quote, which I really want you all to remember, says, "The expert in anything was once a beginner." Take care, everyone.